Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jonah. I am here with Discover, and today we're going to be talking to Kate and Patrick about ancient yoga and all sorts of things related to that. Before we get into it any further, I do just want to make sure that everyone can hear and see us. So please pop in the comments, let us know that the audio is good, the video is good. Kate and Patrick, do you mind just giving a little hello and talking a little so people can see and hear you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. We're so excited to be here. And Jonah, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we are excited to be here and looking forward to talking to all of you.
Heck yeah. And also for everyone watching, feel free to hop in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from, maybe how you heard about Discover or Kate and Patrick. Also, if it's moving fast or you have to get up or there's an emergency or anything, don't worry. There will be a replay available. It'll be available on this YouTube page, also on the Discover page, and emailed to you along with the course offer after the course. So don't fret. And we will also have a dedicated Q&A section after the presentation. So feel free to drop comments in if you have any questions during the event. If you can, though, hold on until the end so we can make sure that we get to all of them. Let's give a formal introduction here. I think everyone can hear and see us. So once again, we have Kate Lombardo and Patrick Franco here today, teaching us the 5 ways to use the ancient practice of yoga to flourish and thrive in your modern life. We can expect today to learn to break down some simple, easy to use strategies to have a positive impact on your life, all guided by yoga philosophy. And we're going to teach you how you can easily incorporate yoga techniques to reduce stress, increase longevity, and improve your overall mental health and physical health in less than 20 minutes each day. A little background on both of you. Kate Lombardo is a ERYT 500-hour yoga teacher and trainer. She's also a mom, a wife, a lover of food, and is obsessed with traveling. Vinyasa yoga sequencing is her jam, balanced out by her love of yin yoga. She's taught more than 3,000 hours of yoga classes and trained thousands of yoga teachers in both 200 and 300-hour trainings. She's owned 2 award-winning yoga studios, led sold-out yoga retreats in Europe, and is passionate about mentoring yoga teachers in the business of yoga. And Patrick Franco is an ERYT 500-hour yoga teacher and trainer. He's also a father, a husband, and a lover of awesome music. His classes are devoted to creating a lighthearted atmosphere that encourages self-study through alignment-focused vinyasa and hatha classes. He's taught more than 10,000 hours of yoga classes, owned 2 award-winning yoga studios, completed an additional 330 hours of study at the, help me out if I'm saying this wrong here, Patrick, the Iyengar Institute of New York.
Iyengar.
Sorry. Oh, I read yep. Thank you. On top of his 500-hour training. Without further ado, I don't want to take up any more time here, so I'm going to pass it over to you, Kate and Patrick.
Awesome.
Very good. Well, thank you again, Jonah. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're really excited to share some really simple tools about how you can better your life through this thousands of year old practice that is yoga.
I think most importantly, why yoga's lasted so long, thousands and thousands of years, is because it's just continued to prove itself to be a useful tool in our modern lives and to create healthy and happy lives, and to use this practice in order to get there.
So for today, we want this to be as interactive as possible. We're going to run through and teach you these 5 ways that you can definitely incorporate immediately, very simply into your life. And some of them we will actually test out live on this webinar during this workshop. And so you don't need any equipment or anything like that, but we invite you during those times to definitely dive in and join us and test it out so that you can learn right along with us as we go. And with that, I guess we will jump in. We'll start by sharing some slides, and then, like I said, when we get to the practice part, we'll cut back to me and Patrick so we can lead you along the way with us. But let's jump in. So this is, again, the 5 ways to use this ancient practice of yoga to flourish and thrive in your modern life. And as we go, through. So we kind of already gave you a rundown of this, but you can expect that during this webinar, we will teach you how to live healthier, happier lives by just changing 20 minutes of your day, maybe even less, because you can always pick and choose of the 5 things. You don't necessarily need to do all 5 of them in order to see results. But we will teach you the simple tools that you'll need to make this happen. And if you stay with us all the way until the end, we do have a special offer for anyone who is joining us today. So we will be sure to share that when we get towards the end of the webinar. We recommend now, if you can, and while you're here with us for this next 40 minutes to an hour or so, to try your best to turn off all distractions, put your cell phone aside, minimize any of the other windows that you have going up on your computer, and just be here with us now. It's like the first rule of yoga, I guess, yes. Right? As much as possible. So do that now and just join us for these next few minutes. Okay, so if you're here today, you likely, if you're looking to try to find a way to flourish in your life in a more positive way, you probably feel stressed. I don't know about you or about anyone watching, but this has been an overall stressful year, to say the least. And I think that that is definitely something that many of us are experiencing on a regular basis. Or you might feel tired.
Yeah, I mean, Kate and I both have children, and you know, whether it's having children at home while you're working from home now, or have been over the last number of years, or you just, you know, the change of your lifestyle over COVID, trying to find that energy to get motivated and to work out or exercise or to do the things that you did pre-COVID, we understand that feeling very well.
Absolutely. Too well. And you might feel overwhelmed, right? A lot of us are playing new roles that we never imagined that we'd be playing, especially throughout this last year. Patrick and I both live in a city environment and have families at home, and all of a sudden you're, you know, wearing many different hats that you never expected to. And that can be really, really overwhelming. So if that's you and you might be stressed, tired, or overwhelmed, know that you are in the right place. And that's exactly who we want to be able to teach these tools for, so that you can get rid of those feelings and feel not stressed, tired, and overwhelmed. We already kind of went through this, but if you want to share a little more about yourself.
Sure. The only thing that I guess I'll add is that I love soccer, and I definitely love dark chocolate specifically with sea salt.
It's very particular about me adding the sea salt part to this.
But Kate and I have owned brick and mortar yoga studios for a number of years, and now we're fortunate to be in this digital world, sharing what we know about yoga with people all around the world.
Yes, and the other kind of fun facts about me, already shared that I'm a mom. I have a 16-month-old at home, and I love to travel. Haven't done so much of that recently, but can't wait to do that again. And I am a huge lover of the Harry Potter book series. It's a total nerd moment, I guess. Oops. Okay, but so the main thing that we want to share with you is, despite the fact that you can feel stressed, tired, and overwhelmed, it is possible to be able to start each day filled with joy, excitement, balance, and ease. Certainly some of the things that all of us have faced throughout this last year can make that feel really challenging. For Patrick and myself, as we mentioned, we owned 2 brick and mortar yoga studios. Both of those studios were closed down as a result of COVID. We did our best to keep them running, but those sadly ended up going out of business, and that certainly was a stressful time. And I think we have pivoted, and we're so excited and grateful to now be in this digital realm, being able to do what we do now. But I think without those tools of yoga that we've been practicing and working with through all these years, it could have led to much, much more overwhelm, much more stress, and feeling much more exhausted. And I think we are so grateful to have been able to maintain feelings of joy and excitement, balance, and ease despite those challenges, because of the tools that we're about to teach you today. And just in general in life, not even just because of this last year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that even if you aren't necessarily feeling those things right at this moment, the practice of yoga and the things that we're going to show you today will help maintain a life of equanimity and balance that if you already have, that's great. And yoga will just help enhance that.
Cool. So we want to let you know that it is possible to move from feeling exhausted and drained to feeling energized and fulfilled. And it doesn't have to be like a full life overhaul, right? It's very simple and straightforward things that you can do in order to make this happen. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we'll give you a little glimpse of where we're going. We want to run you through really the 5 steps of what we're going to teach you, and then we'll dive deeper into each one. So the first step we're going to take a look at is looking at positive affirmation.
Sure. The second one we're going to look at is physical movement.
We're going to talk about breath awareness and how you can easily incorporate that into your day.
We'll talk a lot about being present, and I'm sure you've heard that phrase often, but we'll dig in a little deeper to give some specificity on what that is.
And then we're going to talk about gratitude and how you can use gratitude to totally shift your mindset, even when things are really, really challenging and difficult. So let's get going. We're going to first talk about our very first step and the first tool that you can use, which is working in positive affirmations. So one of the things that you can do each day is take a look at how you can start to work in positivity. And there's this idea of future pacing, which is the first thought of the day, the first thing that you do sets the tone for the rest of the day to come. And if we immediately check our email or get on Instagram, and I'm totally guilty of that, so no judgment if that's you, but it's so easy now because so many of us use our phones as alarm clocks or things like that to like dive right into some of the negativity that exists. And that then sets the tone from where we're going to move forward. But thankfully, yoga gives us a lot of lessons on why it's important to be positive.
So yoga says, right? So how does this relate to what the ancient philosophy of yoga is talking about? Well, the very first Yoga Sutra, which the Yoga Sutras are a book that outlines the whole science of yoga. And the first sutra or short thread says that now, the key word is now the practice of yoga begins. And what that means is that when you wake up in the morning and you open up your eyes, the moment is now to then begin your daily practice. There's also a belief in yoga philosophy that the first thing you do in the morning basically lays out the rest of the day for you. So it's really important to, when you open up your eyes, to make that positive affirmation and to set yourself up for great things for the rest of the day.
So some very simple ways that you can do that is working on starting your day, as you mentioned, with the positive affirmation. So one of the things a few years ago, so when I started out, I wasn't always a yoga teacher and wasn't always doing this full time. I was in a career that I did it for 5 years and it wore me down and I was exhausted and it was not something that I was enjoying doing, but I was determined to try to make a shift after all those years and not get stuck in that negativity. And one of the things that I committed to myself after developing a yoga practice as a student was that every single morning when I woke up, before I did anything, before my feet touched the floor, when I got out of bed, I would say literally out loud, my husband thought I was totally crazy, but I would say, today is a good day to have a good day. And promise myself that like today is going to be the day that everything's going to go well. And what that does when you set that type of affirmation and that type of goal for yourself is that even when things start to get a little crazy or start to feel a little stressful, you can say, nope, I'm not putting my energy towards this because today I'm going to have a good day. And I've already made that choice and I've already set that intention. So just that simple phrase, and it takes like 30 seconds to actually say to yourself, is something that you can do to automatically begin to start your day off on a positive note.
Yeah, well, or what I do to reinforce this attribute in my life is I have a spiritual book right next onto my nightstand, right next to my bed, and when I wake up in the morning every day, I just read a short passage from it. And reading that short passage kind of gives me the insight or the thought process or the positivity that is the first imprint that I have on my mind and my thoughts to set up for the rest of the day. And it doesn't have to be a spiritual book. It could be just a book of inspiration. It could be a book of positivity, of things that you want to incorporate into your life. And by doing it the first moment you wake up in the morning, it creates a very strong imprint, because in yoga philosophy, the belief is that when you wake up is the clearest that your mind and body will be at any other point in the day. You have had no stimulus, you've had no interactions with anything else yet in your life. It's the most clarity that you'll have, and therefore the first thing that you do is the most important.
Okay, so those are two options that you can easily choose from, right? One is a simple mantra or phrase that you can use to get it started. And then if you're someone who loves to read, or there's something that you find inspiring, you can leave that on your nightstand and start with that and reach for that book before reaching for your phone. And maybe you do a combo of the two. Do you have something else there?
I was just going to say, if you are reading something positive, maybe it doesn't come from a social media outlet.
Yeah.
You know, have it something that's physical that you can open up and really look at before you get into the, you know, we know it's a modern life, but before you get into the scrolling through social media and using your electronics in the morning, something that's a little more natural or tied to your environment and, you know, everyday life.
All right. So pretty straightforward. That's number one, just something really easy to start your day with a positive affirmation. Our second tool or step that you can use to start to decrease stress and move towards a place of flourishing and happiness is to begin to work in movement. The mind-body connection is one of the strongest tools that we have at our disposal. And the crazy part is that we've all experienced it, right? That feeling of like being stuck at a desk or behind, you know, the computer for a really, really long time, and our body gets stiff and our mind feels fuzzy, and we get up for a second and maybe, you know, take a walk now, I guess, like to the kitchen or wherever it is, or take a walk outside and just move our body briefly, and it can automatically begin to refresh our mind. And that's because during movement and exercise, the brain really starts to release actual hormones that have a direct effect on our mental clarity. And so movement is a key thing that you can do very simply to have a really strong effect on your mind. And it's very much a part of yoga.
So in the yoga philosophy, again, going back to this book called the Yoga Sutras, the physical practice or the poses, they're called asanas. And what yoga talks about is that the physical practice or using your body is one of the first steps or methods that we can use to eventually start to quiet our mind. And that's a big reason why we do these poses. Yes, the benefits are flexibility, strength, feeling younger and more limber, but ultimately over time, what it's really doing, it's a tool to help us get into a mindset that is focused, can concentrate, can feel light and happy and clarity, not only in our physical body, but in our mental body. This is one of my favorite quotes from the lineage in which I study, which is the Iyengar yoga lineage. And Mr. Iyengar says, "It is through your body that you realize you are a spark of divinity."
Love that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you can do, and this comes directly from the practice of yoga, and we're going to teach it to you now and try it all together, is to start to work simple sun breaths into your day. And what a sun breath is it's a series of very simple yoga poses that you connect movement through your breath, and literally in less than 5 minutes, honestly, it's like 2 minutes if you want it to be, because you can do as many as you'd like, just one round, or you can do them 20 times over. But you can do them when you stand up, like right behind a desk. You can do it in a bathroom stall if you need to, wherever it is that you need to go to just move your body. These can be done very, very simply. I like them if you are someone that like is traveling and you've been on a plane and you're just kind of like feeling a little stuck. When you get off, this is a way to get oxygen moving through your veins and into your mind, and really have a direct impact on what's going on in your thoughts. So Patrick is going to lead us. I'll be demoing and showing you what it looks like, and he's going to lead us through the order of poses to teach you some sun breaths. So we're going to move away now from the slides and just cut to us back here, and we'll walk you through what you need to do in order to incorporate these into your daily thing. So give me a second. Yeah, I got to lower our screen so you can see everything. Very technical stuff here. All right, I think now should be able to see the yoga mat. Okay.
I think we're just about to wrap that up.
What was that? Good?
Yeah. So these sun breaths, there's lots of different poses or asanas that we can do, and some of them are more energizing, some of them are more restorative. Like Kate said, the sun breaths are a more energizing practice that is great to just, if you're feeling groggy, if you're feeling heavy, if you're feeling like you need a little kick to start to get going through your day, you just got off a plane. This is just a great few minutes to take to get your heart pumping, to get the blood moving, and to give you that little burst of energy that maybe you need. So you're going to stand. You can stand up wherever you are, like Kate said, at a desk, at home, in a park if you're watching, wherever you are, just stand with your hands by your side. This pose is called Tadasana, or mountain pose. But we're just going to simply move with our breath. So as you breathe in, you're going to lift your arms over your head. And then as you breathe out, you're going to fold forward over your legs. If you need to bend your knees, bend your knees. Let your head relax. And then as you breathe in, you're going to press your heels down, take your arms all the way back up over your head, look up, and then hands down by your side, mountain pose. So that is one round of sun breaths. And we're going to do this a few times because the rhythm of this is important. So breathe in, take your arms over your head. Breathe out, fold over your legs. Again, you can bend your knees. Breathe in, heels down, reach your arms all the way up, lift your chest, hands by your sides, mountain pose. Again, breathe in through your nose if you can. Breathe out through your nose, fold over those legs. Excellent. Breathe in, press your heels down, lift your chest, lift your arms, hands by your side, mountain pose. Let's do two more. Breathe in, arms over your head, lift your chest. Breathe out, fold all the way over those legs. Nice. Breathe in, lift your arms, use your legs, lift your chest. Hands by your side, mountain pose. One more. Breathe in, arms over your head. Good. Excellent. Fold over your legs as you breathe out. Beautiful. Breathe in, lift those arms all the way up, lift your chest, and then hands by your sides, mountain pose. And then just pause with your eyes out on the horizon line there. Just observe your body, your breath, the quality of your mind at this particular moment, and just notice if there is a shift at all or a little more energy running through your body than right before we started. All right. So this again is like a great 5 minutes that you can take out of your day to just get that physical body moving. Whether you're at work or at home, any time of the day, except maybe right before you go to bed, we maybe would do something a little bit different. But if you need that spark, these sun breaths are a great way to get going. And we have another slide to if you guys need to look at those in case you forget.
Get the desk back up here for a second. I feel better after being behind the computer.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Our heads are not cut off. Very fancy and high tech. Okay. Yeah. So this one we added a half lift, which we don't have to do, but this is an option to, like, if you want to screenshot this for a second or get a picture of the order of how this works paired with the breath. This walks you through the how-to and how to do a sun breath.
And how to use your breath and movement together and simultaneously to really get that connection of body and breath.
Cool. So first step, right, was the positive affirmations. Second step, working in movement. Very easy, straightforward things that you can do that only take, maybe a maximum of 2 minutes total to be able to move through them. Nothing too crazy, but definitely a way that you can start to shift your energy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was going to say, and Kate and I even had this thought as we were laying out these 5 steps, is that going 1 through 5 can even be the order in which your day happens. Like, so number 1 would be earlier in the day, number 2 still earlier in the day, and now 3, 4, and 5 might be afternoon or even later in the day. So you can try each of these out at different points of the day, tomorrow.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be 20 minutes total, right? You don't even need a 20-minute block. It can be these short spurts throughout your day, and it still makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
The sun breaths, we've started to tie these together already, right? We did movement, and then started talking about the inhales and the exhales. But the third one is really beginning to focus on breath awareness and just taking a few times throughout your day to focus on what it feels like to inhale and exhale. And when we do that, it has a direct impact and connection to your nervous system. So it really can take you from feeling stressed, and just simply focusing on your breath can begin to calm you down. One of my, never mind, I'm gonna let you talk about this first before I start sharing too much. This is like my favorite topic of all of them, so.
So yoga says, right, what is the philosophy of breath awareness? And it's this term called Prana Yama. And prana is, maybe you've heard of it, sometimes it's called the breath, but it's not specifically the breath. Prana is, in yoga philosophy, considered the life force. It travels on the breath or with the breath. And then ayama means the control of. So the practice of pranayama, or breath awareness, is the control of the life force as it moves in and out of your body through your breath. And it has such a powerful impact. Some people believe it's like a fountain of youth. It regenerates all our cells, and it keeps us clear in body and clear in mind, which are two important things that we need in our daily life.
Cool.
So how many times a day, if we really think about it, do we actually take a moment to pause and consciously understand or feel our inhales and our exhales? And this is a real question. So I'm asking you guys out there, if this is something that you do consciously throughout your day, if you take a moment for yourself to pause and breathe in and out and notice what those effects are. You've probably heard the cliche, take a deep breath, and I don't know if it necessarily, that cliche came directly from yoga, but the concept of it has been with yoga for thousands and thousands of years, because there is a direct connection with breathing deeply and a relaxation of your nervous system. So we'd love to see some comments out there, if there are any, if you are taking those moments during your day to pause and consciously breathe in and out.
And it's totally okay. No judgment if your answer is 0, right? Because I'll be honest in saying that it doesn't necessarily happen every day that I actually take the time to do this once things get busy. But if you want to let us know in the chat box and comments, on average, how often you do this, it's just very good for us to kind of see that, some people have a daily practice, and some people were just starting out making this part of our routine.
And for me, honestly, before I became a yoga teacher, I would say it was 0 times in a day. And even when I was a practitioner for a number of years before I became a yoga teacher, I didn't have the commitment to this consistently as I do now once I started teaching.
Cool. So this was the fun fact that I wanted to share. It's my favorite part to talk about with regard to the breath. And I think it's a really unique and special thing to think about, especially when we try to, why the breath is so powerful, right? And try to understand that, because it is a little bit of a cliche thing to hear, just take a deep breath. But when you think about the body and everything that happens, right, we have both our conscious mind and our unconscious mind. And the breath is really the thing that lies and bridges the two together. And it's because it's one of the only systems of the body, one of the only things in the body that we can do both consciously and unconsciously, right? So our conscious mind is responsible for all of the stuff, the movement that we do throughout the day. You don't typically unconsciously go for a run, right? Like your brain has to consciously say I'm going to walk now, and I'm going to be able to go for a run, or I'm going to eat dinner. That's all part of your conscious and your active mind. And then we have systems of the body in the unconscious mind, right? You don't have to think about your heart beating in order for it to happen. You don't have to necessarily think about your blood moving in order for that to happen, right? Our mind doesn't affect those unconsciously happen in the body. The cool thing about the breath is it's both, right? We just did this little sun breath, and we can inhale. I can hold my breath if I want to, or I can release my breath, right? I can consciously affect my breath. But then at night when I'm sleeping, or when I'm sitting here working and going throughout my day, I don't have to think about breathing. It's something that I can rely on happening, right? When we sit and we go to sleep, we know that the inhales and exhales will continue even without our mind having to work. So it's the one thing that we can both consciously affect and unconsciously rely on. And in using it to be the bridge between those two parts of our mind, it helps to keep us balanced, right? It helps to bring us back to that place of equanimity. And so it's the reason, and really one of the really powerful ways that we can use very simply, right? Our breath, it doesn't cost us anything. We have it with us at all times, but it can directly impact our overall well-being, which is really fun. So we're going to practice again, and Patrick's going to take us through just a really simple, easy pranayama breathing practice that comes right from the teachings of yoga.
Great. You want to just do it standing then?
Yeah, I think so. Or if you're sitting, you can say sitting.
Yeah. So however you are, standing or seated, lying down even actually is deeply relaxing and to do breath awareness. Oftentimes though, when we lie down, that might lead to sleep if you're tired. So, but lying down could work also. So I want you to just close your eyes first. Good. And then take your palms and rest them on your belly. And you can have one hand on top of each other, or you can have one below, one on your belly button. And then as you're breathing in and out, just notice how your belly is filling up and then how it's letting go. And we're doing this breathing right now without trying to control our breath. We're just kind of observing our breath. And there's certain qualities that we have of the breath. Sometimes the breath can be rapid. Sometimes it can be slow. Sometimes it can be smooth. Other times it can be jumpy. And really what we're trying to do with our breath is to make the breath smooth and deep so that our mind can take on those same qualities. So now that we observed our breath for a few moments, we're going to actively and consciously alter our breath and taking it towards those qualities that I was talking about so that our mind can also take on those qualities. And we're going to do this breathing in and out through our nose only. But if you need to use your mouth to breathe, that's okay too, but we'll try to consciously breathe in and out through our nose. So with your hands resting on your belly, just breathe in like about halfway to your capacity. And then exhale out through your nose, all the air out of your body. Good. And now we're going to breathe in through our nose to a count of 3. So start to breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Filling up your abdomen, feeling your hands expand, and then pause. And then take a long, deep, smooth exhalation, full exhalation, emptying all the air from your body. And then take a few rounds of normal cycles of breath, just letting the effects of that conscious inhale and exhale settle in. And then let's do that one more time. So breathe in about halfway to your normal capacity, and then breathe out through your nose, empty all the air from your body. And then we'll do that breath in to the count 3. So start to breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Pause, feeling your abdomen full. And then take a long, deep, smooth exhalation out through your nose, releasing any tension or gripping in your body or your mind. And then go ahead and start your normal cycles of breath again. Good. And when you're ready, you can gently open up your eyes, pause for a moment, and like we did earlier with observing the effects of the physical movement, maybe you notice the effects of just that simple 2 rounds of conscious breathing, and if that settled you down or calmed you down at all.
Calms me down, and then I jump back into teaching more things. Yeah, no, I think it's incredible to me all the time how just something that simple, right? A minute or 2 of just consciously bringing the mind to the breath can have a tremendous effect on how our overall experience is throughout the day. And one of the things that I often do in trying to make sure that I really become present with it is sometimes even when I'm breathing in, I'll say to myself, okay, I am breathing in. And then I'll breathe out and say, I am breathing out. And just let my thoughts focus fully on my breath for that moment so that I'm able to really be there during that time.
Yeah. And there's lots of different breathing exercises that are out there and that you can do. This is just a simple one, counted breath. And with your hands on your abdomen, you can feel it physically in your body. So it's not just something that is like you can't grasp, but you can feel your belly expanding and then your belly contracting as you fill up your body with breath and then let it go.
Cool. All right, so we'll jump back over to the slides now and keep moving through. We have now made our way through the first three of the five, right? So positive affirmation, movement, and then breath. And now we're going to take a look at our fourth tool, our fourth way that you can start to really have an effect through the ancient practice of yoga. And that's this idea of being present. I just talked briefly now about saying, I am breathing in, I am breathing out, and starting to pull the mind to the present moment of what's happening with the physical body. And that idea of presence and being able to be as present as possible is really, really important, because when we are able to appreciate the present moment, it has a direct impact on our overall happiness. A lot of times I have a certificate in positive psychology, and when we look at studying happiness, the science behind it, oftentimes feelings of unhappiness come from us not being present in our lives, not being able to focus and enjoy the present moment. When you take a look at a lot of people who are struggling with mental health issues, so often it's the mind going and thinking about things that aren't actually happening now, right? So this idea of being able to consciously practice being present in our lives can help us to build our levels of happiness.
So going back to the philosophy of yoga, what does really being present mean? And it's rooted in the Yoga Sutras, again, which outlines the entire science of yoga. And this word is called pratyahara, and it means withdrawing of your senses. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, especially in our modern life. If you like dark chocolate like I do, or if you like ice cream, or whatever the things are that you enjoy in your life, it doesn't mean that you don't enjoy those things. What it does mean is that you allow yourself and your senses, instead of constantly being stimulated by the things around us. So say, for example, if you're walking through the park, right? And you smell different things, you hear different noises, the way your feet touch the ground and the different surfaces, all these things are your senses. And in yoga, what we're trying to do in our practice is to quiet those senses from always looking outward to seek satisfaction, but to start to look inward, to turn our senses to look inward at ourselves, so that we can find clarity and equanimity in our body and our mind. Now, it's a difficult thing to do, but it's definitely possible. And we're going to talk about some of the things that we can do to allow our senses to kind of almost like soften the edges around them, so that every time you smell something good, we're not like, like my kids you hear the ice cream truck, right? You hear the music from the ice cream truck, and it has an effect on what that means to you. As yogis, or people who are trying to be present, what it really means is to just to have a little softening of our senses, so that we have more control over how we react to certain things.
So in our modern lives, why this is important is that when we're not present, then that means that the mind, right, is starting to travel either to the past, and usually when we're thinking about the past, we have thoughts of criticism that come up, right? So we can think back on like that conversation that we had earlier today, or something that we said yesterday, and it's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or that was kind of weird. Do you think that they thought that I was silly for like having that opinion, right? We start to criticize ourselves for things that we can no longer change. So it's criticism that is not purposeful, right? It's not something that you can take action on and fix. It's just something that leads to negative thought patterns. Or we might end up thinking about the future. That should be an equal sign. Totally meant that for not to be a plus sign. Or we can think about the future, right? If we're not present, it's either that we're thinking about the past or the future. And usually when we start to think about the future, we allow fears around the future to come up, right? This fear of change. And I think there's some kind of statistic, like 80% of the things that we worry about happening in the future never even come to be true. And I think all of us have experienced that, right? Like I know that way back when I mentioned I already was like in a job that I didn't like. When I thought about quitting that job, I had so many fears around what that future meant, around the conversation with my boss and how angry she would be, and my coworkers and how disappointed they would be, and the fact that I would never have stability in my life, and what would I do if I didn't have a regular paycheck, and all of those things. And I laid out those fears, and I spent a lot of time thinking about them. And then I talked to my boss, and she was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry to see you leave, but I'm really happy for you. Same with my coworkers. And I didn't end up like without a place to live or any of those things. All of those fears, none of them became true. But I spent a lot of energy and time focusing on them, which had a direct impact on my overall well-being. When we focus on the present moment, when we allow ourselves to become fully present and not get stuck and have our senses be bouncing all over the place, that's when we can find a sense of peace, right? When we can really be in the moment, that's when we can find full enjoyment. And I think many of us can think about a time that was true. Maybe it was like a family vacation or a trip to the beach or something when you're like, I know, like I grew up down at the shore, so the beach always comes up for me. But like when I'm swimming in the ocean and I have to be present because I'm like diving under a wave, it's so invigorating and peaceful because my mind is focused on exactly what I'm doing now. So a few simple things that you can do in your life is some suggestions here, right? This doesn't have to be that forever you're sitting in meditation trying to pull yourself back to the present. But one thing that you can do is think about eating a meal without any distractions. So setting aside your phone or the TV or whatever it is, or even a book, right? Like a lot of times what we do is like, okay, well, I won't look at my phone, but I'll read this magazine while I have lunch, or I'll read a book. But that in and of itself is another thing. Right now we're using our eyes and we're using our sense of taste at the same time. So really just allowing yourself to be present and eat a meal with no distractions, and understanding what does it feel like to put the food into your mouth, and what does it feel like on your tongue, and what does it smell like as that happens? What do you feel like afterwards? What is the point that you get full? So just picking one meal a day, and it might just be a snack, right? Like maybe you're just eating a banana. It doesn't have to be your whole dinner, but one meal a day that you eat with no distractions at all. That's like on.
Yeah, even if you take a walk, or you're with your children. This is one that I think, resonates with me, is that when Kate and I own small businesses, when we weren't teaching, we were still responsible for owning and operating a business that had many, many hundreds and hundreds of people coming through the doors every day. And on any given day, anything can happen, right? But when I got home and I was with my kids, I really tried to be fully present for them, to put my phone down, to not be distracted by an email that came in or a text that came in, so that my children had my full awareness when I was with them. But if you don't have children, even just being outside and taking 10 minutes to enjoy the walk itself, to be in nature, or if you're living in an urban area, to walk down the street and really be part of the street and see what's around and understand exactly what's happening in that given moment. It has a lot of power, and it actually is a relief for the mind. It's mental relief.
I've done this before because as we shared, we live in a city environment, and walking to the yoga studios, I've done okay, I'm not going to wear headphones. I'm not listening to a podcast or listening to music or talking on the phone. I'm just going to walk. I'm just going to walk myself to the studio, and I'm going to try to make eye contact with people and smile at them as I go. And people think that you, at least where we are, would think that I was totally crazy. And if you pay attention, all of a sudden you'll see that the vast majority of people are on their phones or have their headphones in, plugged into something else other than just walking and being in the moment. And so if you have a commute or anything a lot of people are working from home right now, but at some point, if you're going anywhere, your drive to the grocery store or whatever that is, turn off the music and just let yourself drive. Just be aware of what's happening around you, right? This idea of just finding simple ways to not always have additional, stimulation. Even in the shower, I'm totally guilty of listening to a podcast while I do that, right? And I think it's even at those times that you're stepping foot into the bathroom to take a shower, whatever it is, just trying to tune out and just do one thing. So being present in your life and finding small ways to do that is something that comes and is a huge piece of yoga philosophy and really powerful, but it doesn't mean that we have to sit and do an hour-long yoga practice and sit in meditation afterwards. It can just be these small, easy ways to incorporate them into your life. All right, which brings us to number 5, our final tip here, and that is gratitude. So being grateful is one of the most powerful ways to release ourselves from fear. I read this book once called What Happy People Know, and it's by an author named Dan Baker. And he laid out this whole explanation about how fear, because of evolution, is the strongest and most powerful human emotion. And it's the one that we're always going to react with first, right? That fight or flight is literally the reason that we as human beings are here today doing exactly what we're doing. It was key to our survival. And so in our modern life, our brain is still hardwired to react with fear first. But the problem is that when we have to have a conversation with our boss, we don't need the levels of adrenaline that then go coursing through our system in the same way that we did when we were literally fighting for survival from, like, I don't know, bears and like woolly mammoths or things like that, like many, many thousands of years ago, right? So, but it still happens physically in our bodies. And gratitude is the direct way that you can release that fear. And if you think about a time that you were very, very afraid, where something happened either to a loved one or to yourself, and then all of a sudden everything was okay, right? You realize that loved one was totally safe, or whatever you were worried about for yourself didn't happen, and now your safety was fine. Usually the very next thing out of our mouths is, oh, thank goodness that's over. Thank goodness my kid is okay. Thank goodness that didn't end up being this, right? We flood our system with gratitude and thoughts of gratitude to get rid of the fear. So practicing it on a regular basis is a way to powerfully shift our mind out of this fear response that we end up in.
So yoga says, this is a Sanskrit term, and it's santosha, and it's something that is a thing that we basically helps us go back to this feeling of gratitude, and its translation means contentment. And I struggled with this in my own practice, in my own life, because I think more often than not, most of us, and definitely myself, are going through the things that I want in my life. Like I want to go on a vacation. I want, a new pair of shoes. I want to go out to dinner. I want to spend, even if it's like I want to spend more time with my family. A lot of my thought patterns are about the things that I want. And Santosha, speaking of contentment, it's really about understanding and valuing the things that we already have. And if I spend as much time going through and being grateful and having gratitude for the things that I already have in my life and change those thought patterns, in and of itself, that would be fulfilling, because I do have an amazing abundance of great things in my life that if I started and just said those out loud, I would probably be here all day. And it's just part of something that's part of the practice that, like I said, it's difficult, but I'm trying to incorporate it more in my own life. And it really has a powerful impact of changing our mindset on things that we have an abundance of in our life that are really, really positive and really great.
All right. So 2 things that we wanted to share that are very straightforward and easy ways that you can incorporate gratitude into your life are these 2 exercises. So the first one is my personal favorite, which is called the best part of my day. And I think oftentimes people ask the question like, oh, like, what did you do today? Or what happened today, right? You sit around the dinner table, like, tell me something that was like fun at school to your kids or whatever that is. And a lot of times that leaves room for the answer of like, nothing good happened today. It was just an okay day, right? And we end up in this place of like not being able to necessarily pull something out. The question, and one of the things that the exercise is to, at the end of your day, maybe when you're going to bed, maybe it's around the dinner table, whatever that looks like, you ask either yourself or a loved one the question of, hey, what was the best part of your day today? And this simple change in language automatically forces us to find something good. Because even if it was a really bad day overall, like it was like everything fell apart, we're not really asking about the day as a whole. We're saying, well, of that bad day, what was the best part? And now it changes our mind to focus not on the bad parts, but on something that was good. And maybe the best part of some days is right now when I'm like climbing into bed and the fact that the day is over, and that's totally okay, right? Or maybe it's that it was a really bad day, but I held the door for a stranger and that person looked really happy during that time. What starts to happen by knowing that every day we're going to think about the best part of the day is that as we move throughout our daily life, we pick up on these small, seemingly insignificant moments that are able to then focus, that are able to change our mindset and bring us to a point of focusing on the good things, not just the big things that can sometimes be stressful, right? It brings us to those smaller moments and gives them significance because we know we're going to need to talk about the part of our day that was the best one. So really simple change in conversation for something that we probably already do, right? We already share about our day, but you can not only do this for yourself and write down the best part of your day, but you can also then use this as a powerful tool to affect the happiness levels of other people in your life, right? To ask your friend, partner, family member the question, hey, what was the best part of your day today? You know, now their mindset is changing too, and you're sharing this with other people. So that's my favorite tool. Do you want to talk about the gratitude journal? Or do you want me to talk about that?
I think
I can talk about it. Okay. The other tool that you can do is simply to have a gratitude journal. So a little notepad or something like right next to your nightstand that before you go to bed, you just simply write down 1, 2, or 3 things that you were grateful for today. And that doesn't have to be something that literally happened, right? Like during that day. It could be that as you go to bed, you just say like, I'm really grateful for my health, right? Or I'm really grateful that I have this like great home to live in, whatever that looks like for you. Or it could be something that happened today. I'm really grateful that I got to go out to lunch with a friend. Whatever that looks like, it can be about the day that's passed or just about something in your life that you're grateful for. But what you're doing is that you're ending your day on a positive note. And so before you go to sleep, you're setting your brain up, as I discussed earlier, to release thoughts of worry and fear and anxiety and move them to a place of gratitude and therefore to a place of love and feelings of well-being, which then can directly impact your nervous system and make sure that you have a good and restful night's sleep, right? Which affects our overall health in many, many ways. So these 2 simple tools or resources or activities that you can do is a way to take this concept of santosha, of contentment, and focus on the things that you do have and how grateful you are for them. All right, going through. So these are the 5 tools that you can use, all grounded in yoga philosophy, proven to have worked over thousands and thousands of years, but can be easily applied to the modern lifestyle. So we started about where we're going, and this is now where we've been. We talked about positive affirmation, talked about incorporating movement through sun breaths or even more vigorous activity if you so choose, breath awareness by simply focusing on our inhales and our exhales. Mindfulness, shouldn't say mindfulness.
Be present.
Be present, but being mindful. And then gratitude, right? Shifting to a place of being being focused and thankful for the things that we have.
The one thing, if I had to say, is that if I had to summarize, you know, these tools, it's partially about replacing bad habits, really, with more positive ones. And when we pointed out like 5, you know, habits that we might have in our life, you know, like what we do first thing we wake up in the morning, how is our physical activity? Do we consciously look at our breath? Are we grateful for the things that we have? Are we present in our daily life? And if we look at those things, even one of them, and just start to change that pattern in our life, it has a snowball effect that can then not only be in that one aspect of our life, but then start to infiltrate and penetrate all aspects of our life. And then all aspects of our life can kind of have these positive moments that will really leave us feeling, you know, healthy and refreshed and clear in our body and our mind.
So those 5 tools are ones that you can start to use right away to help you on this journey of becoming happier. And so the question that we have for you really is, do you want to be 10% happier tomorrow than you are today? And those tools are a way to get you started on that journey. But if the answer is yes, and you want to continue on that journey, then you have a choice really to make, right? You can go with option 1, where you can kind of stay in that place of feeling tired and stressed and overwhelmed. Or you can choose to flourish. You can choose to put these 5 practices into place and be able to consciously live your life in a way that's going to lead you to feelings of well-being and happiness and an overall sense of joy. And if you're interested now in exploring that even further, and you're saying like, yes, absolutely, of course I want to live my life in a happier way, then we want to invite you to join our 200-hour yoga teacher training course with Yoga Renew that Patrick and I are the yoga directors of. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about with this is so often we have students of yoga, and maybe you're someone that has a yoga practice already, or maybe this is the first introduction to yoga for you. But people hear about a yoga teacher training and automatically assume that you have to want to like do what we're doing and become yoga teachers in order to do one. And the reality is that a yoga teacher training is really a deep dive on a personal journey to learn the ins and outs of this ancient practice and how you can incorporate it into your modern life. And certainly we run through like teaching it and sharing it with others if you choose. But more than anything else, I think when students do this is that the comments are, this changed my life on a personal level, right? This is a transformational journey that moved me from a place of feeling like I didn't know what I loved or what I was passionate about or how to live in a healthy way. And through these tools of yoga, I've now moved to this place of feeling like I have control over my sense of well-being. And so that's what we want to invite you to be a part of, to join us in this teacher training where you can learn more and dive deeper into these 5 things that we shared and expand your learning on those. So we'll run through really quickly some of the things that you would learn in this course if you decided to jump in with us. I'm going to run through these.
Yeah, definitely learning the history and philosophy of yoga, which even though it's something that we practice 5,000 years later, it really is rooted in a long lineage of philosophy and how those philosophies are still, useful in our everyday life. And so we go through that.
So all the yoga says stuff that Patrick brought up today, all of that is grounded in yoga philosophy, right? And hopefully you saw that just something that's ancient and tied to that is still applicable and easy to use in a modern lifestyle.
And then we'll look at obviously the poses, the physical practice, and we look at more than 50 poses and how to do them safely. So I think one misrepresentation of yoga is that you have to be flexible in order to start practicing. And really the practice of yoga is for anyone at any time and for all body types. And we go through, I think, in a thorough fashion on how to modify the poses for wherever you are physically in your life at this moment. We look at meditation and pranayama techniques, some of the ones that we did today together. So like that breathing practice where we're consciously breathing, and also some more specific meditation practices on how to focus your mind on in specific ways that will bring about ease and calmness mentally. And then this is my favorite part, is that the 25 live optional Zoom calls per week. So Kate and I, as well as our staff, we host 25 weekly Zoom sessions, and we interact with students all across the world every day who are in our program, and we're available. We're live on the screen, taking questions, teaching yoga, and making those real life connections that are important, even in a digital world, because when you get together with like-minded people, meaning people who are going through this journey together, and knowing that there's other people out there using these tools, it's just really exciting, and it makes it more powerful.
We also focus inside the course on yoga anatomy, mudras, the chakras. We will definitely cover, if you are interested in teaching yoga, how to sequence a yoga class and talk about teaching methodology. And then we also love to talk about the business of yoga and marketing and ways that you could grow as a yoga teacher and be able to earn money doing this and making a living doing it. And so when we've taught these 200-hour teacher trainings in person, which we've done for many, many years, the price of those trainings was $3,200 to come and learn with us at the studio. But don't worry, it's not $3,200 for this course. We also want to make sure that you have even more value outside of just what's typically taught in the 200-hour training. And so we have a ton of bonuses available if you sign up for the course. So inside the course, you also have access to guided meditations. There's a special ebook that kind of goes further into this topic like we've talked about today, which is understanding your soul's purpose through the lens of yoga. We also include 50 done-for-you class sequences that you can use to practice at home. So as you're learning all of these different yoga poses, you can then take a look at this sequencing ebook guide and be able to put them in an order that makes sense and that you know that is safe and easy to do, or even teach those to other people if you so choose. Plus, there's over 9 other different bonuses included that are part of the course, totaling a value of $1,200. So that total between the bonuses and the cost of an in-person training with us is $4,400, but the price of this online course that is totally done at your own pace is $437. And that's a way, by not being with us in person, we're able to offer this at a much more affordable rate, but you can still interact with us in person on Zoom, which is really fun and exciting as well. So that breaks down either to one single payment of $437, or you can break it into a payment plan, 6 payments of $80 per month. And to enroll in the course, very simply, you can go to yoga-renew.ck.page/200hour, and that will give you the option to choose between these 2 payment options. However, we did promise that if you're still here with us and you've made it this far, that there is a special bonus for anyone joining the webinar today, and that is to get $65 off the price of this course, and that is whether you choose to do the full price option or to do the payment plan. So with the code DISCOVER, put that on there, I forgot to say that though. With the code DISCOVER, that gives you $65 off. So that brings the price of this course down to $372 for a single payment, or you can do, that should say 6 payments. I don't know why it says 12. Sorry, that's totally my mistake and 100% a typo. Should be 6 payments of $62 per month. Using the code DISCOVER. So when you go to enroll and go to the checkout page, there'll be a place for you to, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment, but for you to enter a coupon code, you would put the coupon DISCOVER in, and that is going to give you this pricing.
And it's just, I just want to reiterate, Kate already said it, but it's really, you can go through this course completely at your own pace. It could take you 6 months, it could take you 6 years. And you can do it at your own leisure, which is really, really nice, a great feature about it. So I just wanted to, and also another thing is that there is lifetime access. So we continue to upgrade and update the program, adding new resources over time. And once you do sign up for the course, you have access to it permanently. So people who have done the training a number of years ago when we didn't offer Zoom sessions have now logged back in and are interacting with us on the Zoom sessions. They're getting that new additional content for free at this point because they've been with us for a long time.
Yeah, so just want to quickly walk you through the process of what it looks like and how easy it is to get signed up. So if you go to the page that we listed earlier, yoga-renew.ck.page/200hour, it's going to bring you to a page that looks like this. You get to choose your payment option. So if you want to do the one-time payment of $372, or you want to do the payment plan and get the money off, that's going to then bring you to the Teachable page here, the checkout page, where you can put in your coupon code right where it says add coupon code, and you'll put in code DISCOVER, which will change the price of your course. Then you'll check your email from us. That'll have your login link. You'll be brought to a page where you can log right into our course, and then you can get started right away. So super straightforward and easy. You'll start here on the course curriculum page. You'll dive in and be able to see a mix of videos. That's me making a very awkward face as we pulled this screenshot. But we'll walk you through everything that you need to know for the course. And the main thing is we just want to remind you, the reason that you're here watching this today is that you're feeling tired, stressed, overwhelmed. You want to feel healthy, happy, and balanced. And using the 5 tools that we presented on this training is one way to be able to achieve that result. And if you want to dive even deeper, then we invite you to join us in our 200-hour training and exploring it to learn more. So you can always also head to just yogarenewteachertraining.com if you want even more details on the 200-hour training and what is included in that. But I think that pretty much sums it up. That wraps up, I think, those 5 tools that we have and any info about the course.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate and Patrick. That was awesome. It always stuns me, even just what a breathing practice can do for my day. I was following along and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Also, I just want to call out, I love that you called out being like present as just even put down your phone or just don't listen to a podcast while you're showering, while
Yeah.
you're doing other stuff. Like just be in what you're doing. It's like terrifying for a minute, but it's probably really helpful. But
yeah, it's kind of crazy because I think I'm like the queen of podcasts. I feel like I come in, I'm like, Patrick, I was listening to a podcast and here's the thing. But I think we think of those things as good things, right? Like I enjoy them, like it's enjoyment, it's learning, all of that. Like that doesn't feel stressful for me to do, but it also means that I'm not doing something else, right? Like I'm constantly stimulated. And I think that idea of like just even good stimulation is still stimulation. So it's good to sometimes tune everything out.
But that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, I think we're not used to a certain level of quietness, in our modern life, and trying to strip away some of the layers of that is definitely terrifying early on, but it becomes more useful the more we do it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and how even can you use your mind if you're not allowing yourself to develop that practice of what it is without any stimulation? Yeah, I love that, that way of thinking. I did have a couple questions for you, and for anyone watching as well, feel free to pop comments into the chat there. But I know I've struggled for my whole life. I've gone through periods of having yoga be a part of my life and then falling in and out of it. And I've been trying to look for like, what is the practice that even if I'm not active in the full 20 minutes or an hour a day, what I can carry through. And so I was going to ask, just like, if you had to choose one of these practices being a movement based or a breathing based or a mindfulness that you just, regardless of the full package, if you can hold on to one thing to keep doing every day, which one would you each choose for yourselves, or is it kind of adaptable?
I can answer.
Yeah.
For me, it's definitely the physical practice. And I think that's really what the popular aspect why yoga has exploded is the physical practice, is what most of us have been introduced to first. And I think we live in a culture now that's just people are looking for physical fitness. And it's a way to not really sit there, going back to what you were saying about being frightened with the quietness of your mind. The physical practice is almost like a trick to have your mind think it's doing something physical, but really it's working on your mind. So for me, the physical practice is the way of getting that meditative aspect, but using my body and then kind of tricking my mind into quieting down, focusing on one thing, like I'm focusing on my body as I move through these physical poses. So the physical practice for me, now it has gone over as I've gotten older, of 20 something years of practice, like definitely a little less physical and more into the meditative side. But the physical part of it was a big component for me for a long time.
Well, it sounds like you're saying too, if you maintain the physical practice, you kind of get the other ones with it because you're forced. Yep.
That's classic yoga philosophy. That's it.
Love it. Hey, Kate, I was curious, did you have one too?
Yeah, so I would say for a long time, and probably still if I had to, I would also say the physical practice, just because it is sort of that tool to be able to, I think it kind of encompasses, like through that physical practice, you get to hit all of the other elements. But I was faced with a unique situation when I was pregnant with my son, where I was not able to do the physical practice. Even prenatal yoga, I had an issue where I was like not really allowed to do anything. And it was a very humbling experience because I was still teaching, but I wasn't really able to demo a lot of the poses, and I couldn't do the physical practice. And I found that so many years of committing to like the overall practice of yoga left me with having to rely on the other tools, on like the gratitude specifically, and like the breath focus and being able to move more to those meditative states. And I think ever since then, I mean, I'm back into the physical practice now, but since then, those have become really integral into like my overall, like I start every morning now with a meditation and focusing on gratitude and doing all of those things, because I did that for so many months when I wasn't able to do the physical practice. And I think they have a tremendous effect on things. So a year and a half ago, I would have been like 100% only the physical practice. But I think some of those other, like those simple gratitude practices, even if you don't have time to do the physical, just like a few positive thoughts, I think can make a big difference too.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, and that's why I ask, because I know our lives change, and I've felt in the past, like if I can't do the whole thing, then it's not worth doing any of it. But it's
Yeah.
So it's good to have a little.
I think if I had to say one that would have the biggest impact out of the 5 for anyone across the board is to have that positive affirmation first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to suggest one as a general one that I think would have the biggest benefit for the greatest number of people, it would be that one.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's crazy to hear that doom scrolling right away in the morning doesn't set you up.
Yeah.
And I think we're all guilty of it, even like when I don't want to admit it. It's like this, I like consciously try not to do it. And then probably 2 days a week, I still am like, I guess I'll just check something really quick, you know?
It's almost like it's designed to catch us in its little web, right?
Exactly.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, which was, it can be difficult to find positive literature or positive affirmation that's out there. I was curious, even just if it's one suggestion or if you have a good resource to finding good literature that isn't negative. If you have any little droplets you can give us there to work with.
Well, I mean, a lot of my reading right now is probably like classic yoga philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and mostly books by Mr. Iyengar or his lineage. So he has a couple. One that I always recommend is called Light on Life. And it's just a great book because he talks about his life and how difficult it was and how he found yoga in his life and how it transformed his life. And then he talks about the philosophy of yoga specifically. So it goes into a little more detail about the philosophy and how it applies to living your life, which is a little bit of what we were doing today. Mm-hmm. And that book has had a huge impact on my life and, you know, how I look through the lens of yoga philosophy to live my life on a day-to-day basis.
And so you'll start with reading a little bit of that every morning?
Right now I'm reading another book by him called The Tree of Yoga, which is more of a philosophy, definitely a little heavier in the philosophy, but okay. For people who want to learn more about the philosophy of yoga, Light on Life is a nice middle ground because he talks about philosophy, but it's really the story of his life also.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I just had one more. Oh, sorry, Kate, did you have an answer?
No, that's good. His answer's good.
I had one more question before we kind of wrap up for time's sake here, because I love that you're teaching just yoga as a practice to living a better life, but then your course is also for becoming a yoga teacher. And I think that's really valuable. I know I became a better musician when I learned how to teach. And I'm curious just if each of you has a little reflection. I'm sure you did yoga before you learned to teach yoga, but how has learning to teach yoga changed your relationship to your practice?
Such a good question. I think for me, so I was a student of yoga. Actually, I was a student of Patrick's for many years before I did my yoga teacher training. And I felt like I was a pretty committed yoga student, and I thought that I had a pretty in-depth knowledge. I feel like just from coming and practicing many, 3-4 times a week. Mm-hmm. And then I decided to sign up to do a teacher training. For me, it was because I did actually want to teach, but I would say more than half of the people in my training, it was just for them to learn more. And I think within the first 2 days, I was like, oh, so I kind of don't really know anything. It's right? So it's this practice that's 5,000 years old, grounded in all of the stuff. And I mean it in not only did I not have the knowledge about the history and the philosophy and all how deep it can go, but even doing the actual just yoga poses. I was a student of yoga, and at that point I was I can do a headstand, I know everything. And then I come and they're like, hey, this really basic pose, you're doing it wrong, and you might hurt your shoulder, and you're doing headstand wrong too. And all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, so there's a safety component too. And I think in a yoga teacher training, it gives you the time and space to examine each individual pose so closely for yourself first, to learn how to do it safely for yourself. That was a really powerful thing for me. And then of course, learning how to translate that to other people. And I think in teaching yoga over the years, examining and working with people who have a different body than me, literally their bones are different than mine, right? In terms of how they're lined up. It gives information to explore things through a different lens. And so I would say it just continues to spiral and to dive deeper in the topics themselves, and then in sharing it, kind of like you said, it gives you even more. We probably learn just as much from teaching as we are, as we are teaching our students, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Patrick, did you have any reflection on that too? It sounds like you've been teaching for quite a while.
Yeah, I've been teaching for 15 years and probably practicing for a little over 20. So I've been teaching and practicing for most of my life. It's hard to think back of when I was almost like just a student without the teaching component. But I don't think my practice, kind of like you were saying about being a musician and teaching music to other people, I don't think my practice would have been in depth if I didn't start teaching and if I didn't go down the route of teacher training. It also held me to, for myself, a higher standard that if I wanted to share this with other people, then I really need to, walk the walk and like be committed to it and really like following through on the 5 things that we talked about today and like committing to doing those every day and noticing how it has changed my life in a positive way, so that I can, be more authentic when I'm teaching it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and anytime you can learn through teaching, I just think it's a beautiful synthesis of all the aspects of a practice.
Definitely.
Thank you both so much for being here and for giving us your time. For everyone watching, once more, just remind you there will be a replay available. It'll be emailed to you with the link to the course offer, which is only for a week. So hop on that if you want to take advantage of those discounts. If you like these kind of videos and learning more about yoga and all things creative and life, please like and subscribe to the Discover channel. We're trying to bring wonderful creators like Kate and Patrick out here more and more. And before we wrap up, I did want to ask you both if you have one last little parting bit of advice for people either starting on their yoga practice or for becoming a yoga teacher, just some little nugget you can leave us with to keep people moving and inspired on that journey.
First.
Sure. It just speaks, since I was talking a lot about philosophy today, it really starts with the first Yoga Sutra. It's how we started today's session. It says, now the practice of yoga begins. And really, I see we, but I mean I, when I say we, is that procrastination, right? Oh, so I'll get to it next week, or, maybe a month from now when work dies down, or, and then you never get to those things that you really want to do. And so the key word is now, I think, and you can start your journey at any point in your life, but you do have to take that first step. And then once you take that first step and make that commitment of being consistent, it has this snowball effect that, at least for me, it like pulled me in and really drew me in and wanted to make it a full part of my life.
I love that.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, I think my advice would be to just keep going. Like, start now, but then if you fall off, like, you don't have to go, today does not have to be to start. You don't have to be doing handstands and headstands, right? You don't need a full hour in order to do it every single day. And I think it can feel intimidating in the yoga world when you look around on Instagram or all over with different clothing brands. It's like these people doing insane, crazy poses, when realistically, like, just reaching your arms up over your head and touching your toes is a yoga practice. And it can be just that. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated or fancy or long. It can just be showing up now and just committing to keeping going, even if it's 5 minutes a day, is the way to dive in and keep moving forward.
I love that. Thank you both so much. For everyone watching, thank you again for joining us. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Jonah.
Thanks,
Thanks everybody.